Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Do we have a lot of changes to talk about today. Riot Repertoire and Riot Meddler actually just put out an early pass on the defensive itemization changes coming in the mid-season tank update, and I really want to talk about this because there's a lot of stuff going on for our big beefy guys up in the top lane in the jungle. So I wanted to go ahead and start breaking down the changes that have just happened and kind of what I'm thinking about these changes thus far. So first, we do have two new items being added to the game: Gargoyle Stoneplate and Adaptive Helm. Now, Gargoyle Stoneplate is intended to be a new armor and magic resistance item to replace Guardian Angel, now that that no longer grants magic resistance. More on that in a bit. And Gargoyle Stoneplate is intended to give tanks a way to be big and tanky in the middle of a team fight. Now, what it does is it grants armor and magic resistance, and passive effect grants bonus armor and MR when you're near 3 or more enemy champions. So it's not very good in lane, but if you are in the middle of a team fight, it gives a lot of resistances. Then it has an active effect that grants a lot of bonus health, but it decreases your damage dealt. However, if you have the passive effect currently on, if you're near 3 or more enemy champions, it gives plus 100% bonus health. So if you're Cho'Gath or Scion and you already have 5,000 health and you activate this ability, you go up to 10,000 health for a brief period of time. That's absolutely insane. You're basically unkillable for the 6 or so seconds that it takes. So you do less damage, but that's totally fine, because if I'm someone like Scion, the only thing I care about is getting more crowd control down. And this is going to be really, really cool, I think. It was actually tested. Titanic Hydra does, you still do less damage with a Titanic Hydra than you would do, even with a gazillion health. But it's a really cool item. I'm interested to see what kind of applications it has. And it's definitely weighted more towards tanks than towards carries or anybody, though I'm absolutely certain it will get abused somehow in some way. But obviously all of this is still experimental and a work in progress. The actual mid-season patch won't be for a while, so we'll see how things go. Anyways, moving on. The next item is called Adaptive Helm, like I mentioned. It builds out of a Spectre's Cowl and a Negatron Cloak, so it gives health MR, health regen, and CDR. And what this does is it causes you to take less damage from the same spell or magic effect that you just took damage from. So if Cassiopeia is constantly twin fanging you, subsequent twin fangs will deal 15% less damage. Now, this is also a really big deal because it gives tanks a way to itemize against repeated magic damage as opposed to burst magic damage. Something like Banshee's Veil or something like not Guardian Angel, Spirit Visage really helped you against burst magic damage, but there was nothing you could really do when you have a Syndra constantly dark sphering you or a Cassiopeia who's spamming twin fang and killing you. So this item gives you a way to itemize against sustained magic damage in the same way that something like Frozen Heart or Randuin's Omen give you a way to itemize against sustained physical damage. So this is going to be a really cool item. I do really think it's going to have some cool applications, and I can't wait to actually try it out in game. Now, Guardian Angel, we're starting to move into items that were tweaked a fairly significant amount. Guardian Angel now is an AD and armor item. So it no longer grants magic resistance, builds out of a pickaxe and I believe a long sword in addition to a chain vest. So it gives AD and armor, and it has the same stasis passive. Now, I was initially really skeptical about this, but Riot Repertoire actually came out and said that the reason the item was changed is to make it more in line with the kinds of champions they wanted to build it in the first place. It was never intended to be a tank item because Guardian Angel is really, really abusive when you build it on a tank. I mean, you kill the Nautilus, finally you chew through all of his armor, all of his health, and then he revives with about 2,000 health, his shield, his mana, everything, and you have to kill him again. That's not going to happen in most team fights. So I am interested to see how the change. Now, there wasn't a magic resistance version created because magic damage dealing champions already kind of have options. They pretty much didn't build the magic version of GA, they just built Zhonya's Hourglass. So the idea was that this is going to be shifted more towards an attack damage defensive item in the same vein that like Mauled Malmortius is, for example. So I kind of understand that. I am a bit skeptical. I did like Guardian Angel on tanks. I felt like it was a good option for them to have if they wanted to itemize defense and offense at this, or both defenses at the same time. But we'll see. I kind of want to play with this and see how it works before I make any final judgments. Banshee's Veil and Abyssal Scepter, another couple big changes, literally had their recipes swapped. So Banshee's Veil now builds out of the Fiendish Codex, Negatron Cloak, and meanwhile Spectre or Abyssal Scepter, sorry, now builds out of Spectre's Cowl and Negatron Cloak. However, their unique passives have been retained. So Banshee's Veil gives you the CDR and the magic resistance and the AP, but now gives you the Spell Shield passive. And Abyssal Scepter gives you a lot of MR and defenses, but it gives you the magic damage reduction effect. Now, I do think, after thinking about it for a little bit, I like this change. It's a really weird change, and I think it will take a long time to get used to, but I do like this change because Banshee's Veil was always meant to be a squishy item. If you're a tank and you build a Banshee's Veil, you're supposed to be soaking crowd control, and a Banshee's Veil tells the enemy team, don't crowd control me, he has a Banshee's Veil. Like, go crowd control his friends. So, I do like the fact that Banshee's Veil is now intended to be more of an AP item. Now, I'm worried that it might be abusive in the mid lane, something like Edge of Night was recently, and that it gives you a spell shield, especially because the Banshee's Veil spell shield now, the cooldown on it now scales down with champion level, so it's like 8 seconds at maximum level, which is pretty ridiculous. But Riot Repertoire did say that they would be testing aggressively and trying to get it into a place where they can make it reasonable if it's a first item. This does have the side effect of buffing Aurelion Soul, but I do like this. I think it gives you better options in the mid lane, because Abyssal Scepter, when you built it on an AP champion like Lux, yeah, you did enjoy the resistances in lane if you're getting stomped, but it didn't do you any good for the most part. The passive literally didn't matter, because if I'm Lux and I'm Xerath and I'm getting use out of that passive, I'm messing up. I should never be in range of the enemy team for that passive to be going on. So the Banshee's Veil passive is much, much better for these champions, so I do actually like the change after thinking about it. And the Abyssal Scepter change was always... The Abyssal Scepter was always intended to be a tank item, as we kind of were talking about before. It was supposed to be so that tanks could reduce the MR of champions. It actually now causes them to take more magic damage from sources than usual. Instead, it's more or less the same thing. But I do like this because tanks are the ones going to be in the center of the fight. They should be the ones trying to shred resistances. I do like this change, actually. I think it's a good one. It's just going to be really weird to remember that, oh yeah, Banshee's Veil actually builds out of a Fiendish Codex now. I need to remember that. So it'll take some getting used to for sure, but I do like this change. And then we kind of get into smaller item tweaks. A lot of items were tweaked, mostly along the lines of armor items giving, well, armor and MR items giving less health and more resistances. The idea being that you build Sunfire Cape right now, and yeah, it gives you armor, but it also gives you a substantial portion of health, which makes you kind of universally tanky. Definitely more tanky against AD than AP, but still universally tanky. So the idea with these is that it'll make you more refined in the items you actually build. You won't be universally tanky till you've actually built MR and armor items. So, Sunfire Cape and Deadman's Plate both give less health and more armor. However, their unique passives have also both been changed. Sunfire Cape's aura deals less damage overall, but now deals bonus damage to minions, so you will still have the unique minion damage that you're used to if you play Sunfire Cape. Deadman's Plate now doesn't deal bonus damage except when you're at maximum stacks, so it really is all about that first auto attack hitting people hard. You also don't automatically lose all stacks when auto attacking. You lose like 15 at a time when you auto attack between moving. So I do think I like that change. I think it's a good change that does help out the item a little bit. Not really sold on all of these changes, but I'll trust Riot on this so far. It seems decent to me. The big thing I want to talk about is Randuin's Omen no longer grants crit reduction, and it gives less health, and the active was also nerfed a little bit. It has a higher percentage slow, but the duration is reduced. So the crit reduction is something I'm really worried about, especially when dealing with someone like Yasuo, but apparently this is part of an ongoing effect by Riot to reduce the amount of damage that AD carries deal. See, the problem is, in the late game, if AD carries want to be doing any sort of damage, their auto attacks need to be doing absurd amounts of damage in order to get through all of the armor and all of the health that tanks have built. So the crit reduction is part of a larger systemic change to bring down the amount of damage AD carries are currently dealing. So it seems like a bad thing, but it will hopefully be a good thing in the future. The crit reduction is coming down, but I believe they talked about reducing the armor penetration that Lord Dominik's Regards and Mortal Reminder give as well, so we'll see if those are coming in the actual mid-season patch. Finally, I did want to mention there were a lot of items that weren't touched in this patch at all. Thornmails, Oathwrecker, Banner, all these items were items we were kind of thinking would get reworked or removed or changed some way in the preseason, or in the mid-season, sorry, and they haven't been touched at all, and Repertoire did talk about this a little bit, saying that Basically, these items would take a lot more effort than they have time for to get into a good spot, and they basically would just want to make a baseline of solid items, getting the most commonly built items into a good spot first, and then they can worry about what to do with Ohm-Wrecker, how to balance Rot Portal, Banner Command, all that good stuff. So there will be more changes upcoming in the future. This is all we know for right now, but I am looking forward to this. I think there's a lot of good stuff here for tanks, and it's interesting to see Riot's direction going forward into the mid-season. I'm a little hesitant. We still need to see what they're doing with actual tank updates, but so far, I'm kind of a fan of what we're seeing here, and I think it's going to look good. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts on all the changes they just made to these items. You can go to Surrender at 20 if you want to see the full list of changes that have been made. I know, obviously, some people need to read it rather than hear it, so go ahead and check those guys out, and let me know what you guys think of all the changes that have gone through in this patch. Let me know what you're thinking about going forward, and if you enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoy the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.